Hi everyone,
Hi,
welcome to Cooking with Joe and Pat.
Happy New Year. It's our
Yeah.
first one of the new year.
Happy New Year, is it already?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's hard to believe.
hard to believe. Today we have a really special recipe, one that I've never made before, so I'm going to be real honest with that. Pat's introduced me to the Dutch baby, which is, I called it a pancake, Pat said no.
Well, a lot of Americans call it a puff pancake, a German puff pancake. It's actually closer to a popover. And when you see it, you'll see how, what we're looking at. It's a great recipe. You're going to love it.
And we're going to serve it with a really special blueberry maple syrup with just a little bit of lemon. Today, of course, we have the Y to thank for us doing this, and we want you always to know that the YMCA, the Hillcrest YMCA, is our sponsor.
Yes.
That allows us to put this show on. So we thank the Y for that.
We have a lot of good programs coming up at Hillcrest Y to restart and Real You to help you get your resolutions working and get back in shape after being inside for a long time. So check us out.
So hopefully, the vaccine will be coming out and people will be getting the vaccine, and, maybe Pat and I will continue doing our little show. That really depends on you guys. You let us know what you think. Today, not only do we have our photographer, Tim, who's
Hi,
in the
Tim.
background there, who won't say anything. We also have special guests, my wife, Sue, and Pat's husband, Tom.
Hello.
And Walter.
And
And
Walter's
Walter.
there.
On the start of the show.
And they're mad at us now because we put them on film. So anyhow, we're going to get started. Go ahead, Pat.
So right now, with our puff pancake or Dutch baby, we want a really hot oven, and that's an extremely important thing. So we're letting it preheat a little while we get the maple syrup going. The blueberry maple syrup is extremely easy to make.
All the blueberries?
Well, we have a choice here, Joe, and it depends on whether you like fruitier flavored syrup or you want some fresh berries in it. So what we can do is I put in 1 cup of maple syrup. We can either put in the whole pack of blueberries, or we can leave a few out and put them in at the end.
Well, let's leave a few out so we can do presentation.
Yeah, it makes it
It's all
look
about
pretty.
the presentation.
Yeah, that's our thing, right? So this is, all we have to do for this is put in our cup of maple syrup and our blueberries. We're gonna save a couple. They escape sometimes. We're gonna put in just a squirt of lemon juice because that will keep it nice and fresh flavored. And we're gonna bring it to a boil and let it cook for about 10 minutes.
Okay.
What happens is the maple syrup will be infused with the blueberries, and we will, they'll start to burst. This makes such a good syrup for any kind of pancake or anything like that. Let's talk a minute about maple syrup. There's different grades of maple syrup.
Yes.
You probably know that.
I have a friend that actually has a sugar shack.
We do too, and there's nothing like going out in the spring and getting that fresh syrup. But maple syrup actually comes in 4 different grades. And it used to be called A, B, C, and D. A being the lightest, the summer grade, very light, very not as mapley, more sugary. B was a darker color, an amber color, and it was the preferred. People thought that A, B, C, and D meant that the D was bad. So they have now relabeled it to amber, light amber, and stuff like that.
Okay, that makes
What
sense.
you want is the second grade, the second deepest, because it has more, it's fresher, not too overpowering, but it has more of the maple flavor
Okay.
to it. And you will find that as you buy it. So we're preheating our oven.
And Walt wants to make everybody know that he's here today.
He's the star of the show in our lives.
I think it's Tom trying to just aggravate
He
him.
probably is. Yeah, I know, that's a bad combination.
Yeah, bad
My husband
combination.
and the dog. Yeah.
2 juveniles.
So we have, one of the reasons we started the syrup is because we do want it to cool down.
Okay.
Hot sugar is hot.
Hot sugar is very
We
hot.
don't want to, get burnt on that. The oven is on. The oven is preheating. It's hugely important. You have a convection oven? That will speed it up a little. It's hugely important to have a hot oven. When you turn your oven on, usually in about 10 minutes it beeps and tells you that it's hot. It's not. It's lying to you.
It's lying to you.
Yes. What I learned at the cooking school was, what that means is that the air in the oven is hot. But just like your cast iron pan
That we're warming in there.
that we're warming in there, the metal isn't necessarily hot. So that 350 may only be 300 when you put a pan in there. So always give it
Okay.
a little bit more. We have a cast iron pan. Tell them how that heats up, Joe, what we're doing now.
Cast iron pan, they're my favorite pans to use. I learned how to cook in a cast iron pan from my grandmother, who was very old school Sicilian. Excuse me. Cast iron pan can be used on the stovetop and can be transferred into the oven. It's a dual purpose. The cast iron heats evenly. It keeps the heat constant throughout the whole vessel. So that makes it a lot easier to cook something like the Dutch baby. Again, stainless steel pan would work just as fine. As long as it goes into the oven. You
Key.
want to make sure that the handle won't melt in the oven. So you need a dual purpose pan. Cast iron is the simplest, easiest pan to use, to clean, and to keep, but it takes work. It's not something that is easy to do. We'll talk more about that in a little bit.
As things are cooking here. And the other thing, we chose that pan because we have the oven heating to 425, and not every pan has a handle that can go in at that. Cast
Right.
iron can take anything. It also will maintain the heat. And as we get to temperature, what we're gonna do is the butter in this recipe is just gonna go right in the pan and melt in the oven there, so that the pan and the oven are really hot.
Our blueberries are boiling, Pat.
Good. We're gonna simmer them for like the next 10 minutes while we're cooking.
You want me to put it to simmer?
Yeah, doesn't that look good already?
It does.
What's not to like with blueberries and maple syrup? I mean, as I said, this would be great on any pancake. So our batter is extremely simple for this. The butter is going to melt in the pan. We don't have to beat it. We don't have to. Hear that sizzle? That means your pan is good and hot. Perfect. We have a half a cup of flour. We're going to put a half a cup of milk in. I can find where I put the half cup. Here it is.
Do you need another one?
Yeah, if you have another, it has maple syrup now. Half a cup of milk, a teaspoon of vanilla. Use a good vanilla. There are imitation ones. Don't buy it on your trip to Mexico, because frequently instead of putting it in alcohol, they put it in windshield wiper fluids and
Oh,
stuff.
wonderful.
Yes. So we don't want to do that.
That's a little tidbit for the day.
Yes, I learned that. It's inexpensive because they're not using the alcohol. This is basically just vodka and vanilla put together. We're gonna put 2 eggs in here.
Half a cup of milk, Pat?
Half a cup, please. Flour, milk, vanilla, 2 eggs. We're gonna mix this up. Where's my mixer? So what's nice about this recipe is if you're having a brunch or something, you don't have much to do here. You can get it all ready. Don't need mixers, don't need melting bowls or anything like that. You just need to give it a mix.
What about the lumps?
Leave them in.
Leave the lumps
Yeah.
in? My kind of batter.
Yeah, it's ready to go. So if the butter is melted, we're just gonna pour this right on. So there's a few lumps in there, that's absolutely fine. What did that take, a minute to mix up?
Not even.
And we wanna talk a little bit about,
Butter's melted and brown.
we're gonna pour this right on top. We're gonna hear a little splatter probably, so be careful that you don't. Splatter up on yourself, because that's hot butter. And this is really all we have to do. Put it in the oven for about 10 or 15, well, probably about 15 minutes. And hopefully when we come back, we're gonna find a beautiful pancake. Let me wipe up my mess here.
Check out this blueberry syrup. Tim, come and take a look at.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Blueberries are bursting.
And the maple syrup is being infused by the berry flavor. So now the cool thing with this is it keeps. You could keep it as it is in the refrigerator for a couple days. If you wanted to use it like for a vodka martini or a blueberry martini or something, simply strain it, and then it can keep in the refrigerator almost indefinitely.
Oh, wow.
It's like a blueberry simple syrup at that
Now,
point.
how long do we let it simmer?
About 10 minutes.
Okay.
The truth is, that's not an exact science, it's how much time do you have, but we do want to make sure it's cool. Oh, in the meantime, we talked about why it's important to have that pan hot. The butter, as you saw when this batter went in, it's mixing and it's gonna steam and, like I said, hopefully rise.
Hopefully rise, yes.
You know, it's always a surprise, but I've never had it not, so
Knock
knock
on
on
wood.
wood. I want to talk about measuring the flour, Joe.
Okay.
So, a lot of recipes, particularly old ones, will say sift the flour. It's not really necessary because it all comes pre-sifted. When, you know, 100 years ago when you bought a 200-pound bag, things pretty much
A
settled.
lot of difference.
Yeah, it was a different thing. But what you don't want to do is scoop and tap down. Because you can actually get maybe a quarter cup more in a cup if you tap.
Yeah, you want to keep it by volume. So
Very
you don't
light.
want it. You don't want it to be heavy and settle into the bottom of the
So if you're
measuring cup.
measuring your flour from a container, which most of us will be doing, the best way to do it is actually to spoon it into the measuring cup. Let's do this backwards, like this. And that aerates it just enough,
It's like if you're sifting it.
as if you were sifting it. The time you would want to sift is maybe if you were putting in baking powder or something, but it's not urgent because if you do this, you can actually lighten the flour up quite a bit. When I buy flour, my container only holds like maybe 3/4 of the container of the bag. If I tap it down, I can get the whole thing in, which shows how
much
much
volume,
it can
yeah.
compress. On the other hand, when you pour it out, you might find that there's a lot more than will fit in the original.
In the thing.
It really makes a difference. It really. So if it's such a little thing.
Is that why they tell you when you're measuring flour, you always use exact measurements, a half cup, and then you level it off?
Level it off. When it gets to the top, you just take instead of tapping it down again, you take your knife or spoon and just go like this.
And that little bit of extra flour can make a big difference.
I think a lot
In
of
baking.
times when people say that this didn't turn out or why is this heavier than that, it's those very little things that make a difference.
That's what I thought.
Not having your pan hot, not having your oven preheated. That's the one I read all the time online where they say, oh, it took much longer to cook. And I'm like, is your oven really hot? Did you really have it hot? The other thing is every now and then, get a thermometer and check your oven. The cooking school I worked at had top of the line stoves, you know that.
Mhm.
They
Yes.
were built into houses, or they had to have firewalls put into even, I can't have one because I don't have the firewall. They were that good. Every 2 months we had them calibrated because even the best oven will go up or down a little
yeah.
bit. Now, all that means at home is if you put your thermometer in and it says you think you're setting to 350 and you get 325, know to adjust that. Know that you really have to go up a little bit. It again makes a big difference.
Right.
We talked about vanilla. We talked about our flour. There's not a lot in this, and because did you notice in the recipe there was no sugar?
Yes.
Yeah, which is sort of fun too. Which means that this actually could be served as a savory dish if you wanted to.
Oh.
You know, sometimes you'll see people doing like a roasted marshmallows. Roasted. Tom and I have been calling marshmallows and mushrooms interchangeably lately,
Oh, okay.
and now it has stuck in my head.
Sign of old age?
It started as a joke, but now it's in my head forever. So.
It's a Tom thing.
But anyways, roasted mushrooms or something like that could go on it and make it as a dinner.
Sounds
But
good.
there's no sugar in it. So when we serve it, We're gonna put some powdered sugar and a squeeze of lemon on it. That's the traditional way.
With the maple
Well,
blueberry syrup.
you get both, you can have one or the other or
Oh,
both. It's
okay.
up to you. How's our syrup looking?
Your syrup looks really good. It is simmering very nicely.
Oh, that
It's
looks
reduced a little bit. And I think it's done.
I think it is too. Let's let that start cooling so that we can taste it later without scalding anything. And
Let's
this is key. Hot sugar is hot.
Hot.
And it sticks to you and it burns. So let it cool. Don't take it right off a warm syrup is nice, but we don't want to boil and burn anything with this. It's just, if you've
Right.
ever had a sugar burn, you know.
Yes. Yeah, on top of your mouth.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about cast iron pans. A couple of people have asked us, why do you use cast iron pans? How do you keep a cast iron pan? I have a lot of cast iron pans. What I would suggest that you do is, you get a good cast iron pan. Lodge is the best. And if Lodge is watching, you don't have to compensate me.
It's true though.
But a cast iron pan is a solid formed pan, and it's a molded pan. It's stamped out. What's nice about it is, as I said before, it evenly heats. But cast iron pans can last forever. The one that is now cooking in the oven now was actually my grandmother's.
Really?
And it is probably, I don't know, 60, 70, maybe more years
Wow.
old. And cast iron pans, it's iron. They're gonna wear and tear. They're gonna rust, but it doesn't mean you throw them away. They last a lifetime. So the best thing to do with the cast iron pan when you get a new one, a lot of them say they're pre-seasoned. I would always season them again, just to be on the safe side. And what you do with that is you get a bland oil. I use avocado oil. You can use any kind of oil, really. Vegetable oil, whatever, canola oil, something that doesn't have flavor. And you rub it into the pan real good with the paper towel. The whole pan, everything. And then you take the pan, you preheat an oven. I like to preheat it to 500.
Good and hot.
And I stick it in the oven and I turn the oven off. And then in the half hour to 40 minutes that the oven is cooling down, it's baking the oil into the pores
Nice.
of the pan. And once it cools down, you're gonna have a nice little glaze on it of oil. I wipe it down with the paper towel.
Just paper towel.
And it's seasoned, and it'll look like this. You don't want any dry marks, you don't want any rust marks or anything like that in it. If you see that, you want to take care of it with coarse salt, and you rub the coarse salt, and that breaks down the rust, and that's how you clean. You never, ever use soap in a cast iron pan. Soap will get into the pores, and it could affect the flavor and the seasoning of the pan itself. So you want to use a brush, and I keep this brush right next to my sink,
Ah, okay.
and I use it to scour the pan when I'm done cleaning it, when I'm done cooking,
When you're not cooking.
and that's how I clean it. And then I use very, very hot water, and then usually my oven has been on because I've been using it. I'll stick it back in the oven to dry.
So the water evaporates.
So the water
out.
evaporates and it doesn't cause any rust. Now, if I notice that it needs seasoning, I probably season these a lot.
Yeah.
You don't want to have too much buildup of oil on it. And the way to get that off is you just scrub the pan real good.
If it starts building
If it
up.
starts building up. These are, you notice, they're pretty good. You want that little
That looks
sheen.
Perfect.
You want that sheen in it.
And you can, it doesn't feel oily,
Yeah.
but it feels
Clean.
but you can also feel sort of a slide to it. Yeah.
So again, with cast iron pans, they're a great investment. Tim is behind the camera there. He has a full set of cast iron pans, and only because he probably was raised in this house does he appreciate the benefits of a cast iron pan. It's not something that is easy to get used to, because most of us like to grab the pan handle of the pan. The whole
Yeah.
pan gets hot, remember. They make devices that, let me see, hold on one second. They make devices that you can put on the end of the pan, silicone handle, that you can
to
grasp
protect
it, to
yourself
grasp
like
it.
that.
I have pot holders everywhere. It's always what I use. So be conscious of that you don't want to hurt yourself and burn yourself. So that's cast iron pans.
And you can use this on a grill then too.
Yeah, I mean,
If
I
you're
use this on
camping
a
or
grill.
whatever. Yeah.
I mean, they make them in so many, I'm gonna
Oh my
show you
gosh.
guys. They make them in so many different sizes and shapes. Dutch oven with a lid. A griddle.
Grill pan.
A grill pan. This is my large one. And this is my saucepan.
You've got your car.
I have, like I said, I have more than I need. My wife always wonders why I'm buying more things.
It's a bit of a workout too, lifting and all.
Yeah.
When you do the whole bunch, I'm impressed, Joe.
Thanks.
A little weightlifting too.
And I also have a griddle that I use that I can put on top of the stove.
Oh, that's nice.
Flat griddle. I can use. I haven't used that in a while, but
But it's there if you
it's
need
there.
it.
So that's cast iron pans 101. We'll talk more about them. You'll see Pat and I using them all the time. Pat likes stainless. I know that.
I like stainless. I like the cast iron too, but I have the enamel coated ones. Some of the enamel coated
Yeah.
Dutch ovens and stuff. And I do have cast iron. I do like both. But whatever you use, you want a good heavy pan that can go into an oven like this.
You'll
I'm
hear
gonna
people.
take a peek
Okay,
here.
you'll hear people say you want a heavy bottom pan, and the reason they say that is because a heavy bottom pan will heat more evenly on the bottom, and the whole pan gets hot. That's our 10 minutes, Dad.
Okay, we need.
Need a few more?
Yeah, we're going like for about 15, so you can see it's cooking.
Tim,
but
you wanna
it's
take
just
a look at
beginning
this?
to puff.
Starting to puff up.
And you see the sizzling on top? The butter is actually risen into the batter. So it's gonna take just a few more minutes.
So we're gonna give it a few minutes, and we'll come right back.
Sounds
Okay.
like a plan.
Go.
I think it's time to check, Joe. How's it looking?
Oh, it looks good. It looks done.
Oh, it does.
Not as puffy as I think it should be.
Sometimes
but
the sides puff up more, but you know what? With a convection oven, it may have heated more evenly throughout, but I've gotta say, it doesn't look
it
bad,
looks
does
good.
it?
It looks really good.
Not bad. So if you were having a brunch, think how easy that was to put together. It's cooking, you can make your coffee, your drinks.
I'm a sucker for butter,
I am too.
and that butter on the top of it makes it look really, really good.
And while that butter's on the top, we're gonna put,
I'm coming over here with the
okay.
Pat.
While the butter's on the top, we're gonna put that lemon juice and the powdered sugar, and it almost makes like a little glaze. Oh, you hear that sizzle stuff?
Yeah.
And actually, it's fine with just the lemon, but why not gild the lily with some? So you can see how the butter and the powdered sugar are just sort of making its own little, oh, doesn't that look
That
good?
looks really good. Can you hear them talking in the background?
Mm-hmm.
We're taping now.
Excuse us, sirs.
So
No food for them. We're taping.
we're taping.
That's the problem with an audience,
See,
you know?
this is what happens with an audience, you guys.
Do you think the maple syrup is
Yeah, I'll go
cool
get it.
enough? So what's happening now, right now, is the lemon juice, the butter, and the powdered sugar are sort of mixing together and giving it that sweetness that wasn't there in the pancake itself because we put no sugar in. It's delicious as it is right now. This is how I like it. But I know a lot of people like a little sweeter, and if you do, that's when we're going to.
Still a little hot, but I have a ladle.
And what you would do with this is just slice it. Yeah, it's still a little hot, but not horrible. But I can see a little steam coming up, so we probably won't maybe taste that right now, since we don't want to ruin our taste forever.
It's not that
You
bad.
think you could do it?
Yeah, I think
Some
I can
people
do
are
it.
better with heat than
Yeah.
I'm more of a wind, but we're just gonna. Do you see that crusty?
Wow.
Use my knife with it. This is not really a knife. But you can see because it's in this wonderful pan, it's not sticking at all. It would not stick in a regular pan too because it's of the butter there. What?
That looks really good.
Well, Joe, this is new to you, so let's see what you think of it.
I'm gonna be the guinea pig.
You know you're our taste tester. Let me move this so you don't get burnt on the handle, though. Tim probably is an EMT too, but probably wouldn't be good.
That he is.
Probably wouldn't be good to put him to the test.
Okay, you ready? My first
Your
Dutch
first
baby.
Dutch baby. Isn't that delicious? So different.
It's very light,
Very light.
and I like it with the blueberry syrup. It's really good.
Isn't that syrup good?
Yes, I'm probably gonna eat this whole thing.
I hope you will. And the truth is, there's only a half a cup of flour in that whole thing.
It's not a
It's
lot.
not a heavy meal. I have made these as individual ones for brunches and parties. I've made 3 times the size in a huge pan for a party. I make double that for Tom and I usually. Because
really
we
good.
like, but isn't that good and different?
You know what's nice about it? It could be breakfast, it could be brunch, it could be breakfast for dinner.
Yeah, it absolutely could. And it's just different. You get tired of the same stuff all the time. It's not really, it doesn't taste like a pancake. It doesn't have
No,
that texture at all.
It tastes
does
more like a crepe.
Yeah, a crepe or a popover or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, Yorkshire pudding, that type of thing.
I like that. That is really good.
And I will tell you, the first time I made this, I remember very clearly because you know how when you're very young and naive, I announced to my mother-in-law that after being married just maybe a year, I'm going to make a new recipe every day as a New Year's resolution. And she said, "You mean once a week?" And I said, "No, every day."
Oh my God. Were you able
And
to?
she just smiled at me.
Did you do it?
Well, the first one was January 1st, and I made a Dutch baby. And I did it for about 2 months, and I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking? And she just said, I didn't want to say anything.
Are there 365 different recipes?
Oh, I don't
every
know.
day?
I just gave up on it. I do remember saying to Tom once, how do you like this? And he said, what does it matter? You'll never make it again.
Well,
Please try this.
this is our Dutch baby. We hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about how to make the Dutch baby, a little bit about cast iron pans, a little bit about flour,
Maple syrup.
maple syrup,
Lots
and
of little bits
blueberries.
and pieces in this.
It was a lot today, but hopefully you enjoyed it.
See you next time.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.